on this episode of the People of Pearland Podcast.
And but they
You don't
weren't
feel
very
bad
many.
forging a signature?
That's interesting you brought that up because I've actually taken a picture of the signature that I
Smart.
used.
Yeah.
That way, each time, like if I get the same kid, it looks the same.
Consistent.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's a really clever idea.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more. Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of the People of Pearland Podcast. First episode in our brand new podcasting space. Nice wainscoted room in the historic train depot.
Yes.
I don't know how to describe the space. I guess we'll have pictures for it.
It's empty right
Yeah.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah. It's empty.
We only have the bones right now. So we got the audio stuff good to go, video parts next, and then it's time to decorate the space.
Right.
I think.
And it is a cozy space. I like it better than our previous podcast space because it feels.
I will say the previous space, we were all up at each other's. Like
Right.
we were all like sharing
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one little table. So
And like we've really bootstrapped this, like the chairs we found in the depot, the couch came from Joe's house.
it did. Yeah.
We're going to build our own coffee table,
Right.
which is pretty fun.
It has
But
less of that corporate vibe.
Yeah.
yeah, it needs to feel like, less corporate-y, less government-y, and more like, hey, it's okay to share stuff here. We're all friends.
I like that.
The voice you just heard, that is our current guest. It's Tori, Kirk, right? Who chose your nickname for you? What's your...
I chose it myself.
Nice.
Because I got... I used to always very religiously go by Victoria. There was never any kind of alteration when I was a small child. I hated if anybody nicknamed me. I did get named Vicky occasionally, which it's not my very favorite, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And then I had kind of a situation where I got tired of the sound of my own name because I had someone I worked with that called my name so many times that I got sick of hearing my own name. So I said, you know what, we're gonna go with a whole different vibe here. We're going with Tori, and that sounds better anyway.
A little bit of a rebrand, a brand refresh.
I like that.
That's good. So what do you do here for the city? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm the Accounts Payable Supervisor, which ultimately means that I review any invoice that comes through, the final approver on those. And so I mark whether they're approved for paying, and I monitor any type of payment modifications, anything that needs to happen there. We do some checks that we print here on site, and the other ones that go through our third-party payment processor. So a lot of discussion with different departments, a lot of collaboration, and ultimately just making sure all the necessary documentation's there and everything is as it should be.
Yeah.
And also just making sure sometimes, a lot of the payments that I make are the same ones that I make on a frequent basis.
Right.
So sometimes I'll reach out and say, oh, are you sure that you want it to be this way? And, okay, this is going to be an in-house payment. Never mind.
Fascinating. That's a really important job. Like if people aren't getting paid, if we're not paying our invoices, we can't do
Business.
anything.
Yeah.
Right. How long have you been here? I don't know the total number off.
It's going on a year, so it'll be a year for me in August. I can't remember the exact day. I think it was August 13th, but I could be wrong on that. So my year's coming up, but it's been a really good year with the city. I've really enjoyed it.
Where were you before this?
So before that, I was working in nonprofit.
Okay.
So I worked in the nonprofit sector for a short time, for a little over a year there. But before that, my biggest role was in banking. I had 8 years of experience in banking. So, numbers have become something I'm very accustomed to. So,
Nice.
And what made you interested in municipal government?
well, I had left banking. There's a lot of things I liked about banking. I liked the structure of banking mainly. There's a rule that you follow, and you make sure that you don't deviate from that. Mm-hmm. And there's some comfort in that.
Right.
But then there's a little bit of that kind of, I don't know, that distant element as well. You don't want to get too emotionally invested because, you are handling people's money, et cetera. Then in nonprofit, there's a lot of heart to it. You're doing something that's very community based. But the only thing about nonprofit is because you're working with a limited staff, the structure isn't always there.
Yeah.
Sure.
So when I decided to leave my previous job, which I had enjoyed, very much, but I kind of wanted the best of both worlds. I wanted a little bit of structure, but I wanted that community involvement because that's very important to me.
Yeah.
I live near Pearland in Manville, and I've always been very active in the community that I was originally from, which was Lake Jackson. And I wanted to learn more about what was going on in Pearland. And so coming here, I've learned a lot more about the community events and even like the local businesses and things.
Yeah.
Tell us some of the things you've learned about Pearland since in the last year.
So the biggest thing is just, well, it's kind of funny. So, with my being in accounts payable, I'm the one who approves invoices, obviously.
Sure.
So anytime something comes in from parks and I'll see something like, face paint or something like, they're about to have a party. They're about to do something. Yeah. What are they going to be up to? And I'll kind of take a look at like what vendors they have. And like for Spring Fest, for instance, I knew exactly who was going to be there because I paid their invoices.
Because you paid invoices.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So things that'll appeal to me, like I'll see things coming in, and that actually, like I kind of stay informed that way. And then of course, City of Pearland's really good about sending, emails and stuff to inform us, but kind of getting involved in some of those little like community festivals and stuff like that. One thing I was really disappointed I didn't get to involve myself in was the Parks Department was answering Santa letters. And I was like, that would have been perfect.
Yeah.
So writing on Santa's behalf, or
yeah, I've done it before. I'm part of the Brazoria County Historical Museum, and I've answered Santa letters. Nice. And but they
you don't
weren't
feel
very
bad
many.
forging a signature?
That's interesting you brought that up because I've actually taken a picture of the signature that I used. Yeah. That way, each time, like if I get the same kid, it looks the same.
Consistent.
Yeah.
Oh man,
that's a really clever idea.
Yeah.
You also have a little stamp made or something that you can.
Yeah.
I know, right? I try to make it look all nice and like calligraphy
cool.
and everything. Yeah. So it was speaking on that. When 2020 COVID happened, I had to answer the Santa letters then. And the questions that came in broke my heart because they were asking like, are you and Rudolph are okay? Are you getting sick? And I had to come up with, creative ways to, be very sensitive to the issue and also make them feel some kind of comfort.
So growing up, Santa's presents wrapped or unwrapped?
Well, we didn't do Santa Claus.
Oh, interesting.
No, we were very anti-Santa in my family.
But you're pro Santa now?
Yes, okay. I like Santa. Yeah. I mean, I don't have like a ton of Santa Clauses in my house, but I mean, I think it's cute. I like the Santa Claus movies and all that. Tim Allen is Santa Claus.
He is the Santa. Yeah, that is my wife's favorite Christmas movie.
They're great.
She'll watch it multiple times throughout the season. It's ridiculous.
In the second one, the joke where they're reading the contract and there's the Mrs. Claus, and it's that gets me every single time. So if you're listening and your kids are listening, you might want to close your ears for this part. Because the reason I asked that is growing up, our Santa presents were always wrapped and they're like, to Josh from Santa or whatever. And it's embarrassing how long it took me to realize that was my dad's handwriting because it was literally my dad's handwriting.
Oh, he didn't even try to disguise it or anything. Okay.
No. I mean, he has one handwriting and that's it. And I was like worried about this when we had kids. I'm like, how do I, and my wife's family, Santa's gifts were never wrapped. You wake up and they're there and ready to be played with. Yep. And I'm like, but then you don't get the joy of, unwrapping.
But that was smart on the parents' part because they're like, okay, here's an excuse for why I don't have like these, 10 presents wrapped.
Exactly. Yeah. So we started doing that. And of course our kids are, Henry's, my youngest, is old enough that he doesn't believe in Santa, but he still wants the like mystery of it.
That's cute.
You gotta have Santa gifts.
Yeah.
Wrapped or unwrapped at your house?
Unwrapped. Now that I'm thinking about it, but I never really thought about that growing up. It was just like you just go downstairs and there's stuff, and you're like, cool, like this new. But now with the kiddos, we do unwrapped.
Yeah.
So.
You know, one of the cute things was, the kids would always ask Santa in the letters, what they wanted. And so they'd, have all this expensive stuff. Like, I want an iPad. I want, a new computer. I want 10 games. And then you would get like a little message in like the envelope from the parent. Like, they are not getting the iPad. They are not getting, you can tell them that they're getting this. And so I was like, okay, that's smart.
Yeah. That's a really good
That's
idea.
Funny.
I had never considered that part either.
I was always careful when I would respond to say, we're preparing something special for you.
Nice.
But I would never say what, because I didn't want to say, oh, yes, we're definitely getting that for you. Your parents will spend easy, $2,000 on your present.
Right. I have to go back because you said you're part of the Brazoria County Historical Society. How long
Museum.
have you... Museum. Okay. How long have you been associated with that?
Off and on for probably about 4 years. And I say off and on because, I wrote answered the Santa letters through them. And I was also, and more recently, I've been able to be involved in their in-person activities as well. So they have things like Cowboy Day. I just did that recently.
Cool.
They had a Space Day. And the turnout was pretty good, actually. I wasn't sure what to expect, like, going in. But, for Cowboy Day, the kids were so adorable because they all had, like, Western gear on.
Love it.
And a lot of times the parents would too. So, you have this little tiny girl at yay high, and she would have on like her little spurs and stuff. And I was like, oh,
that's adorable.
That's awesome. Where's the museum at?
It is in Angleton, so right next to the courthouse.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
It's that very. It kind of looks like an old church. It might have been an old church, actually. There's the history of it is there. I know that they used to have a bell, so I think that it used to be an old church.
Gotcha.
And no. Excuse me, it was the old courthouse. It was the old courthouse, and it's a really neat looking building, and but it's right behind the one that's currently there.
I've never noticed that building.
It's a small building and it's white, so it kind of blends in.
Yeah.
But it's across the street from, I think it's called Scooters, that little coffee place.
Yes,
I'm gonna need to go down there
Right
and check
across
that
the
out.
street.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, you have to. Their presence on social media isn't always the most active, but they do post occasionally on Facebook.
Right.
But they have, like, if you have smaller children, they have little community events, and
Cool.
the Cowboy Day was very well done. So
That's awesome.
Have you been to the Pearland Historical Society?
I have not. I didn't even know they existed. See, I'm starting to learn all these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
They're right next to the tax office
Yes.
and Ed Thompson's office. It's the old administrative building for the ISD, right next to Junior High West.
Okay.
They have a nice little showroom, lots of photography from over the years in the community.
Right.
I'll have to check that out.
We, of course, have the oldest building in the community, which is kind of a nice. We want to partner with them to
Figure out how to get some of that stuff here.
And the
outside
train
Florence.
depot is the oldest, right?
It is one of the oldest structures. I don't know if it is the oldest structure.
Then what is the oldest? Because you said we had that.
Well, this is close to the oldest, if not the oldest. I think it was built in 1901 by the Santa Fe Railroad, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And the only reason I think that's the number that sticks in my head is because the first structure was built in 1895 here. No, 94.
Oh, man.
1894. And yeah, because 2019 was our 125th.
That's right. Yep.
That's when the original plat was set here. And then there was the hurricane of 1900 that basically wiped everything out.
Wow.
Then they started over again.
Yeah.
But this building wasn't here originally, was over by the train tracks. And then Santa Fe Railroad decommissioned it in the 80s and donated it to the city.
That's awesome.
And then the chamber office out of here until right before Ike, and they moved out to the building that used to be Southwest Fertilizer.
I remember that. Yeah.
I worked there for like 6 minutes.
Did you really?
Yeah, like not even long enough for them to put me on the payroll. It didn't work with my schedule, and I worked there for a hot minute.
How funny. Yeah.
Is this like during college years?
High school.
High school, yeah.
So my best friend, Kenny, he worked there for a while, building lawnmowers, basically.
Cool.
And then a couple of us did. We rotated through there. But I was doing landscaping with my dad, and I was like, man, I'd rather do landscaping than, moving merchandise at the Southwest Fertilizer.
Yeah, I remember when I think I went in there a few times with my dad. That was a fun little place.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And now it's the Chamber's headquarters.
Yeah.
So crazy.
I have been there.
to the chamber?
Yes, I was actually going to start today, but I'm going to start Toastmasters there soon. So next week.
Oh, cool.
So what do you do in Toastmasters? What is the...
I haven't been to the first meeting, but from what I understand, it's basically just exercises in public speaking.
I see.
I believe, and I could be wrong because, like I said, I haven't gone to my first meeting, but I believe they give you like different prompts, different like little like assignments and things like that, and you just get comfortable with speaking in front of a group.
Wow.
But it's good, especially, for y'all are in communication, so y'all probably.
I was gonna say, if you want to practice this, you just come over and see us.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
for y'all are comfortable in front of that, but when you're working in an admin role, sometimes you start to kind of lose that skill a little bit more if you tend to have like a desk role.
Yeah.
And so something like that is good to kind of stretch those muscles,
And
so
it was called what?
Toastmasters.
I hadn't heard about
Has
this.
nothing to do with making toast.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah, the actually I found out about it from the Slice, the distribution that comes out for the employees, and the city of Pearland will sponsor you to go to it. So that's one of the really nice little perks.
So cool. Toastmasters has like a Pearland chapter,
exactly. Yes.
And who is it? It's at the chambers. Like
yes.
I mean,
you can do it virtually too.
Okay.
They have a Zoom link as well that you can join. It's an hour every Monday. But I'm, looking forward to that. But I said, I'm already going to be speaking today. I don't need to overdo that a little bit.
So do you like public speaking or no?
I've had a lot of experience public speaking in the past. Like is an interesting word. I mean, does anyone like giving presentations? It's one of those things. It makes you feel good at the end, like, wow, I did that, and I got through it. But it's always a little bit of a stretch when you first get out there.
Sure.
I've done a little bit of acting.
Really?
So I might be on Hollywood. No, I don't.
Yeah,
think so.
Yeah. What kind of acting? Like stage performances
Community theater? Yes.
Community theater.
Very cool.
And that's a different, very different than public speaking. I mean, public speaking, it's all about credibility and making your point understood. And it's the opposite with acting, because it's about disguising who you are and becoming another person and immersing yourself into that character. So
and a believable character.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Have you ever done improv?
No, I haven't. I don't know. I think I would like it. I don't know that I would be good at it, but I think I would like it. The last play I did was an interesting project because it actually involved people in the community, most of which you actually knew who they were. And it was just regular people in the Brazoria County community, and their stories, their struggles, and you're portraying them. So it was
fascinating.
It was very interesting, and getting to meet the people that you're portraying. I mean, usually only actors can do that.
Sure.
They'll meet somebody, they're portraying somebody famous, they get to meet that person.
Right.
But that was kind of an interesting experience. And it was a little bit of put a little bit of pressure on, because you wanted to be able to tell their story in a way that didn't come across as fake. Right. You wanted it, to come across believable. You didn't want in any way to seem like you were mocking, what their life basically, So it was a cool experience. Sometimes I would see the person that I was portraying, in the audience, and I'm like, oh, I gotta do okay because they're there.
Yeah, that's a delicate.
It was nerve-wracking. It was a little.
That's a very delicate balance, I can imagine.
Yeah.
What theater company or where does this take place? Is this?
I've done plays at Brazosport College and the Center for the Arts and Sciences down in Lake Jackson. Okay. So they're right across the street from each other.
Yeah.
I haven't done anything at the college for years, but I used to do Shakespeare over at the college, and Summer Heat. That was fun. It was Shakespeare in the park, so it's out in the middle. It was in August, so in the scorching heat, bugs everywhere. But
my wife, when we were in college, actually this summer we met. She did the Galveston Island outdoor musicals.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was, the cast, they would hire people and they would stay. They had a campus for them to stay on down there. Wow. But it was so incredibly hot down there. I don't know how those actors did it.
And the musicals, I'm imagining they're like dancing and everything too.
Lots of dancing, lots of singing, lots of just movement overall. And really well done. They brought in some unbelievably talented people. And it's always a good time. I don't even know if that's still a thing down there anymore.
I haven't heard about that in a while. Yeah.
But we went down. We used to go down there as kids, I remember. And then the last time I saw a show down there were the ones that my wife was in. But so that's cool. 21 years. But
Don't age yourself. Yeah.
I know. I'm not old. You're old. No, it was a different time though. And it wasn't. Well, I don't know. It was probably just as hot.
Probably.
Then. But yeah, that's good. And I'm always impressed by people who have hobbies like that, because that's different. I mean, it takes a real go-getter, I think, to
the challenge is just talking yourself like out of your own head.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there's a little part of you, especially when you're doing community theater, you're not contracted, you're not being paid, and there's always a little voice that says, you know what, you could just not do this, put yourself through all this trouble, just don't show up.
Sure.
No, they'll cast somebody else. It's no big deal. No one's going to be affected. Just don't show up.
Right.
And especially the audition, your brain's just telling you, why don't you go home? Nobody expects you here. Just turn around, leave. So, but it's always good to kind of put yourself out there a little bit. Get involved in something that interests you. So.
Yeah. So do you find that you have an artistic slant? Like, you obviously are a very snazzy dresser, and
thank you.
You are an actor. Do you lean more artistic, do you think, or are you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have the analytical side.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because your professional job is like numbers.
Yeah, it's very, there's not a whole lot of ambiguity there.
Sure,
but
sure.
no, I definitely do a lot of different, I'm a dabbler, so I dabble in a little bit of everything, a little bit of painting and sketching, singing, acting, none of that, the problem is that I tend to bounce around, so none of them are super developed,
right.
but there's a little bit of all of them.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, to have that variety, though,
Keeps
I
it
think
interesting.
it keeps you from getting bored, right?
Yeah.
What sort of sketches do you like to do? Are you like portraits or landscapes, or a little bit of everything?
I'm trying to get. I recently learned how to do portraits, and I did fairly well with it. And I was surprised because people are notoriously hard to draw.
Right.
But once you have somebody to actually break it down, kind of break down the anatomy and how to kind of perceive that, it was a lot easier. So I've done a little bit of that, but I have to say. And it's kind of a bad habit, but I've gotten into the habit of drawing cartoon characters, like, Disney characters and stuff. It's easy, though. That's the thing. Yeah. And that's why I said I've gotten into a bad habit, because I'm not drawing originals. I'm just drawing something fun, Here's Mickey Mouse, sketch it,
Right.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I actually, just this last week, so my grandfather was a draftsman, architect, and I remember as a kid watching him, like, he'd be sitting in his living room. I specifically remember, like, I was sitting on the couch and he was sitting on the floor beside me, and he had his working on an idea, and so he had the grid paper, but he was just like freehand drawing, like a layout of a bathroom or something like
right.
that, with everything to scale, and the windows and the door, and it swings this way, and his handwriting was so perfect, because he'd spent his entire career drawing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was over at my dad and uncle's house. They don't live together. They live next door to each other. But over at their place, and I found a binder of my grandfather's drawings from 1970 when he was a draftsman for a pipeline company.
Cool.
And it's all the like drainage pipes and
right.
gas lines, and each page is just a blueprint.
Yeah.
And it's weird, because it is art, but in a different kind of way.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, well, and the what do they call it? Like spatial,
Yes.
relativity, right? And that's one of the things, like, I can't draw, but I can sketch like an idea of a thing that I want to make, and then I can make it, and it's like, oh, that kind of sort of looks like the thing that I sketched. But that's the extent of my of my artistic ability.
Yeah, but
what
it's
kind of
cool. You're
things
using the grid paper and everything. Like, you're
Right.
figuring it out.
Yeah. Well, and then translating it onto a medium.
Right.
But I think that's one of the things that I like about art, is that it can kind of be anything.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I always we used to go to modern dance performances, and I always threatened to do like choreograph my own modern dance, because nobody can tell you like that it's bad.
Right. Yeah.
And my whole plan was to make a really popular one, and then people try to interpret it and be like, "No, you're wrong." That's actually not what it means.
Man, have either of y'all seen Gilmore Girls?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Kirk's interpretive dance.
Yes.
When he's dressed all in black.
Oh man.
Yeah. And he's got the mime makeup, and I think it's supposed to be the birth of man or something like that. And he's, just contorting his body.
He's one of the best written characters. Like he's so out there. I love it.
Anytime he's on screen, you're in for a good time.
Yeah.
Okay, yay.
For sure.
So mine was just going to be a folding chair on the stage, no music to start. A single dancer walks out with a spotlight, and they sit in the chair for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's
quiet,
a thing. That's
quiet
the thing.
on stage.
Are you a band kid? Were you in band? No. Okay. So there's this composer called Johnny Cage, I believe, like the Mortal Kombat guy.
Sure.
And he had a piece called 4 minutes and 11 seconds or something. I'm probably getting this all wrong. Anyways, comes out on stage, full band, all their instruments, counts them down, and they sit in silence for 4 minutes and 11 seconds. And it's supposed to be like, the noises, the sneezes, all the coughing. Like, that's the music of the room, right? And so, like, that's a thing. Like, he is world renowned for that.
Well,
for being quiet.
So you're not too far off there.
There you go.
People getting more and more uncomfortable making more sound as they're shifting around. That's
a
interesting.
really crazy concept. Yeah.
I've always been fascinated by people that are willing to explore things that are that risky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like that could totally not work at all.
For sure.
There's another one similar to that we learned about in one of my film classes. There was this artist in New York, and I can't think of his name, but he had a mechanical film camera that would shoot 24 frames a second, but he could manually advance them like one frame at a time. And he used them to take a picture of himself every hour for a year.
Wow.
For a year straight, the dude couldn't be more than an hour away or half an hour away from his camera
to take that picture.
And then he had to be awake every hour to take the picture.
Wow.
And the movie comes out, like when you play it, it's 24 frames a second, right? So an hour per second over the course of the year. I think it's like 3.5 minutes long,
right?
That it comes out to, or 6.5. It's 6.5 minutes, something like that. And it's just stills of him over the course of an entire year. And I'm like, who can do that? Like, you have to be independently. I don't even know how that's possible.
I just wonder what his mental state was after.
That's
got to take a toll on you after a while.
Sure. It's got to be stressful.
Yeah.
It's like astronauts. Like, you just got to be prepared for things might go sideways. Just got to deal with it and keep going. I'm not saying he's as talented as an astronaut. I'm just saying
different type of talent.
Different type of. There are things like that I think are probably too disruptive for me. Right. Like, I know I couldn't handle stuff like that. I like starting things without thinking them all the way through, but things that are less consequential than, I have to be here every hour for the next year.
That's a commitment.
That's commitment.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I don't do anything a year at a time.
I was already worried about, I'm doing the incentives for Cigna, and you have to log your progress every day. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to remember to do this once a day. So just imagine trying to take a picture every hour.
Yeah. And what happens if you screwed up? Do you start over?
But then again, how would we know if he
missed? That's there. If it's a 24th of a second, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's got to be some.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. That's a really good point.
I guess he had a certain deadline he had to turn him in by, maybe, to kind of keep him more on a deadline.
I mean, if you have the freedom to take a picture every hour for a year straight,
you must be your own boss.
There's got to be something to it. So obviously you have a pretty full outside of work life. What do you ever plan on? You're going to be famous with your acting, or
no,
you don't want to.
No.
You don't want to go to Hollywood?
No. The only thing in Hollywood that kind of appeals to me. The only industry that I sometimes was like, you know what, that would be fun is to be a Hallmark actress. Oh man, that would be fun. Like
just crank out like 8 movies.
Exactly. And I mean, there's no stress. Like, you know, you don't have to act to be in a Hallmark movie,
right.
you know, and it's like they have the cutest clothes and it's like, you know, they always has like, you know, a cute dog somewhere around there and, you know, they're, you know, baking cookies or whatever they're doing. So, I mean, and the thing about being a Hallmark actor is that, you know, paparazzi doesn't follow you. Nobody knows who you are.
Fascinating.
So, and you're still getting the experience of making movies if that's what you enjoy,
Right.
but without all that societal stress. So
that's
the only one, the industry that I would even think I would enjoy. Everything else, no. The part about being an actor that doesn't appeal to me is, number one, they go through a lot. I mean, you know, when you look at the behind the scenes of making movies, not only is it dangerous oftentimes, but just the sitting around that people don't kind of, you know, think about. And then also just the like I said, the idea of your life just always being on the spotlight. You know, you don't really have such a thing as a personal life now. You know, your life and your work, they're all kind of together. So you're a personality now.
Right.
That's exactly why I decided not to be famous.
Oh, there you go. So that's why you decided not to do your interpretive dance then.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't need that pressure in my life, you know. I didn't want to do that many interviews. So, speaking of wardrobe, we already talked a little bit about this. You're a very snazzy dresser. Have you always been you know, dressy? Like, is this it?
When I was little, I was very not. When I was much younger, it was like I would wear the same like paint stained shirts all the time. My mom used to get so irritated because I had this kids college shirt, and it's from, you know, when you're like 10 years old, and I wore it until I was like 14. It had paint stains everywhere, and my mom hated that, you know, because she was always like, you know, encouraging me like, oh, you know, try something new, you know. No, so it was very much about utility or whatever, you know. I was forced to wear, you know. And I used to dress with a lot more basics, like, you know, blacks and navies and all that. And then I watched the movie, what my inspiration was, Confessions of a Shopaholic. So that very vibrant style, and I read behind the scenes, you know, there's a lot of blending of vintage pieces and, you know, modern pieces and thrifted pieces, etc. And that kind of eclectic style was what caught my attention. And I kind of realized, you know, life's too short to just wear the same muted colors all the time. You know?
Amen.
Well, you have a very unique style as well. I mean, you know, I see you styling like the boots and everything, and
I think I've always, my stepmom always told me I have a champagne appetite on a beer budget, and but I remember, like, I can remember as a kid, I had a white tuxedo with a pink satin cummerbund and bow tie.
Oh, wow.
Dude, I was balling. Like,
would you wear this like to regular class? Or?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Well,
I'm picturing this.
No. So I did pageants as a kid.
Okay.
And that was like, you had to have a formal wear.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Had tails on it. It was like a cut, you know. I did wear it, now that I'm thinking about this. I wore it to school one time for a piano recital, and I did the whole, like, I went to sit down and I flipped my tails out and sat down. If I'm doing this, I'm doing it right. But no, I agree with you. I like a lot of vibrant colors and things that people. I like surprising people. I think that's the. You know, like my boots, they're red on the top. That's just a little surprise just for me.
Exactly,
you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
I'm trying to look.
I can see them. So.
Yeah.
It's not that surprising.
Yeah. But when I'm up and walking about, you know,
exactly.
they're. So how do you decide your style? You find pieces that you like, or
100%. I mean, I definitely have colors I gravitate toward. I like. more, if that makes sense. I like textures, things like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like for instance, you know, like buttons or embroidery or, you know, something different, you know, a little flounce here
your
and
collar's
there.
like, is that
I
embroidered?
was about to say, like,
Yes.
where are you sourcing that? Because
This
that is
was
such a cool-
Amazon.
No
believe it or
way.
not.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
yes. Amazon and thrifting. I mean, that's where most of my stuff comes from. The shoes, Amazon.
Yeah.
This thrifted. So this was not either. This was. I bought this specifically for this interview, the pear pen.
Brilliant.
So
Yeah, love it.
that was from Australia, but everything else was local.
Very cool.
So, did you own any pear things before you came to Pearland?
No.
And now, how many pear things do you have? You have the lapel pin.
I made a pin recently because I didn't think this one was going to arrive in time, and I had that idea to wear the pear pin.
Nice.
So I made one, and then I have this one. But
So you're crafty too.
I love crafting. Any type of crafting, pretty much, except for crocheting. I couldn't get behind that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I can, you know, applaud people who do it, but it wasn't my thing. I couldn't do it. But yeah, pears are notoriously hard to find, though. I was, you know, Googling on, like, you know, on Amazon and different sites like that, you know, because I wanted it to come quickly, and it's like pear anything. It's just it's a desert. It keeps it'll autocorrect it to Pearl, and I'm like, oh great, this is our problem too. Everybody calls it Pearland.
Yeah.
We've wanted to do a joke about that, renaming it Pearl and.
I think
Pearls
we
and
might do an April Fool's video where
That
it's
would
like
be fun.
the mayor announcing that we're changing the name.
That would be fun. And have, you know, after so many mispronunciations, we decided to just go along with
Roll
public
with it.
consensus. We're going to be Pearland.
He's driving an oyster vehicle with a Pearl.
Let's do it.
Or we
I'm all-
change
I'm all in.
more expensive joke would be changing the pears on the highway
Yep.
to Pearl.
To
You know?
pearls. I bet we could find a way to Photoshop
Oh, yeah,
that.
we can Photoshop that. We can figure that out.
That'd be
We'll go back to the pictures we have of them installing them and just swap out the pear for a
There you
pearl.
go. I'm liking this. I'm putting
I
this
know.
on the calendar.
It's a great idea.
When-
We're going to make some people mad.
Well, when you said April Fools, it reminded me. Did y'all see the little people around the offices and in the around the break rooms and stuff in the City Hall Annex?
Oh no.
No?
So I did that. That was my little
missed that.
prank. It was fun.
What were they?
So I
Define-
got these teeny tiny people. They were less than an inch. They were probably about maybe 0.75 inches. Very tiny. And it was 300 of them.
What?
And, yes, 300 of them in the thing. So I said, so I started putting them out along the offices, people's cubicles, you know. I had 50 by the time anyone noticed. So Kendra, our deputy finance director, 'cause she's, you know, and this shows, you know, why she's deputy finance director, 'cause she was observant.
Yeah.
She comes out and she goes, what's with all these little people everywhere? And people are like, what are you talking about? You know, it took them off guard. And then she pointed it out. Well, then people start noticing.
Yeah.
But
So
they
they're
didn't
like-
know it was you.
No, not yet. And so I continued this, and I would walk into people's offices, and I'd just be putting people everywhere, you know, and I'd hear people all through the offices. There's more. There's some over here. They were in the bathrooms. They were in the break rooms. They were in the refrigerator.
Oh,
They're
that's
in
great.
people's lunch bags. They were everywhere. And I'm just walking around placing people. And so finally, I actually honestly put all 300. No one technically caught me. Well, I'm sorry, my employee did catch me, and I told her, shh, be quiet. But they by that time, they started to suspect me. But it took, I think it was about person 250 that kind of
Oh my
got me into
gosh.
suspicion at that point.
That's
So-
amazing.
Okay, did you have the idea and then get the people, or vice
Yes.
versa?
No,
Okay.
I had the idea. They weren't just laying
Like,
around.
Sure, 300 people. Let's go. Like you walk into Costco, like I didn't know I needed 300
Oh.
3/4 inch tall people.
So the funny thing was, at first, when it was just like a few people like placed everywhere, at first people were a little like apprehensive, like what is this? This is
Right.
weird. What's with these people? What does this mean? And I would just be like, oh, I don't know. You know, stick more down there as I'm talking.
Wait, so you're dropping them like in
Oh,
broad daylight,
yes.
and
Oh,
people.
yes. In their offices, I would go into people's offices and ask them questions, and just start dropping people.
Oh, amazing.
And what I learned through this experience is that if you make really good eye contact, people don't notice what your hand's doing.
What?
So that's what I learned.
Nice little experiment there.
Yeah. Have you tried doing magic tricks or anything? Or,
No.
Um,
That's one hobby I haven't gotten
That's
into
awesome.
yet.
I
But
hope
hey,
you have
there's
pictures of it.
times.
I want to see
I
if
do.
you have
Yeah,
I
dude,
do.
where
I'll
are
have
these
to show
people
you
now?
all.
Yeah.
They're still scattered throughout. Oh, funny thing was that I put a bunch of them in. There was an empty, not light socket switch, but what where the plugging goes in for like the plugs.
Yeah.
So it was empty, and I placed some of the little people there. Well, I don't know who did it, but they made a little office for them.
Oh, that's great.
So people got in on it.
So it really, it's like starting a life of its own.
It did. It took on a life of its own. And one of our fire chiefs, he grabbed one of the people that I had placed, and he named him Finance Frank. And he started taking him along on his day with him. So he had pictures of Finance Frank,
How have we
filing
never
papers.
heard about this?
And yes, it was fun.
That's amazing.
All right, next time we need a good idea, we're gonna come to you.
Exactly.
I'll try to deliver. But I honestly didn't think it was funny how effective it was, because I'd seen the idea online, and I was like, well, I mean, it's harmless, so I think I'll try it, you know. And
I think it's a great
the
idea.
amount of people that got involved, it became kind of like an Easter egg hunt for adults, you know. So
I love that idea.
That's so
I'm gonna be
funny.
looking for little people around the office.
City
now.
Hall Annex, there's still a few.
Okay. All right.
Around the break room area and all that. Yeah, and finance, they're everywhere still.
So-
300 people. They're going to
So
be
now,
everywhere.
when people are finding them, are they picking them up and bringing them back to you, or
No, I got a few of them. Because I had wanted to do a project with them, but I left the rest of them. So I didn't need 300 teeny little guys.
That's amazing.
Well, somebody tossed some of them in that model too in the City Hall Annex.
That's funny.
Yeah, but they look, I mean, they were trying to make it cute, but they look dead because somebody just threw them in there, and they're like on the train tracks.
Ooh, we should go fix that.
Right. I don't know how that reflects.
Oh, no.
I think somebody in Public Works built that model,
He
if I
did,
remember
yeah.
correctly.
I met the gentleman who built it. It's a really cool model. He said he and his team had put that together, and it's and you know they were very accurate with the scaling and everything.
Yeah.
And then there's these random people that don't fit the scaling that someone threw in there, but
Good to know.
So cool.
I know. That's wild. So you're coming up on your year here.
Mm-hmm.
What's your plan? What's the next year look like for you?
well, I'm getting ready to complete my CGFO, hopefully.
Your what?
So my CGFO, which is the Certified Government Finance Officers exams.
Oh,
so
okay.
once I have that, that's a really nice thing to have. You know, you can actually put it like on your signature. It's part of your title, and that's very helpful to kind of just learn like the basics of like civic government, civic finances. And so once I do that, that's my goal for this year. And then next year, honestly, this isn't part of finance exactly, but I'm honestly looking into getting a master's program. And I haven't decided 100%. A little part of me thinks about getting it in literature, even though that's very different than what I'm doing.
That would be so
but
fun, though.
That's fun.
I always wanted to get one in linguistics because I thought it would be
that would be
interesting.
lovely. Yeah, but that would go well with your communications.
It
major.
would, but it's
Yeah.
still useless. I mean,
I feel
the
like
most
most
part.
masters, unless you're like going for something, I think law you have to have
Yeah.
a master's, and of course
engineering.
If you're a
Psychology.
if you're going to be a doctor, you have to get your master's before you do that.
Right,
So
right. Yeah.
most other masters are, in my opinion, it's just a way to kind of I don't know, add to yourself. So.
Right. Oh, I think continually investing yourself investing in yourself is an important thing to do. I mean, if you don't do it, who else is going to, right?
Yeah. One thing that when you said about the city, it's not. It will be an extension of the city. But one thing that interested me, I had read in one of our little papers that we have here, the Reporter News. Pearland's trying to increase its arts presence, and they're looking
You
at
have the Cultural Arts Master Plan, yeah?
Yes, that intrigued me, and I had called Miss Tracy over in CVB and to kind of look into getting involved with that, because that is one thing. I love Pearland, and there's a lot of incredible businesses, and but we still don't have to my knowledge a local theater and things like that, you know, and I think that's a great initiative. So something like that I would love to be involved in.
I thought, isn't there a black box theater or something like that?
Is there?
I thought there was. Maybe I'm.
You know what there is?
There is.
Where
What's
is
it called,
that?
Jasmine?
Pearl Theater.
Pearl Theater. Yeah.
Pearl Theater. You know what?
It's
I do
L
know
Theater?
of them. Yeah, they do a lot of children's plays.
Oh,
That's
yes.
what I'm
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
they do a lot of
you're
children's
right, you're right.
plays.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
I should say adult community theater.
Yeah,
Because
that
Pearl
makes sense.
Theater, I've heard they do great shows.
Yeah.
But the few adult plays that I've seen them put on, it's like a cast of 3, and
Yeah.
those are very competitive
Sure.
for obvious reasons.
So, these, we always like for these to be super conversational, but we do always like to ask in every single one, what is your why? I think we've definitely done the exercise because you were in the class in
definitely.
the last
Yeah.
year. Maybe it's changed since then. I don't know. But what's the thing that gets you up and gets you going every day?
So my why is just being able to handle each payment that comes in with urgency and integrity. Understanding that there's a person and there's a community impact behind every single bill that I pay. It's easy when on an average week I approve anywhere from 200 to 500 invoices. Sometimes I've had upwards to 600 and beyond.
Goodness.
So when you have that level of approvals, you're streaming in, it's easy to kind of blank out and just another one,
Right.
and especially if there's some kind of a challenge with, maybe there's, documentation that's not there or whatever, it's easy to just kind of like, okay, well, it'll go, next week or what have you. But understanding the community impact and even the the departmental impact that this will have if you don't pay that is the important thing to remember. I try to handle every single invoice I get with the same level of urgency, because whether it's $100 for a face painter or $250,000 for a capital projects, it means something to someone
Sure.
that's involved.
Yeah.
If
One of those is equally important to the person who's expecting payment on
Yes.
that invoice. Yeah.
and to the department handling that as well. And I always try to remember the trickle down effect, and if I fail on my end and this doesn't get paid, then the person in that department that's handling it, they have people to answer to, and then the vendor they contact, they probably have other employees to answer
Sure.
to, et cetera, et cetera. That means it might mean for someone that their employees aren't going to get paid.
Right.
So just kind of having, just remembering that it's more than just a PDF file that I'm looking at on the screen, and understanding the bigger picture behind it.
Well, that's a great lens to have on it. Because you're absolutely right. Everything you do touches so many people, internally and externally.
Exactly.
And probably externally more than just about any other department.
Oh, yes.
People get real touchy when you start messing with
Right.
payments and things like that. But
Yeah.
I think, finance is one of those departments, one of the internal service or support functions. If we don't do well there, then, it's easy for people to lose trust
100%.
in our capability. And we need people like you that are trustworthy and committed to the work that they do.
Appreciate that.
And I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I can talk on a podcast, but I don't want the pressure of the invoices. That stresses me out.
Well, thankfully, I've had, when you work in accounts payable, because you literally touch every single department, you build those good relationships, and and at the end of the day, everybody wants it paid,
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I've had a lot of experience with customer service and everything. So, if there is a frustration, you just kind of have to keep that level of empathy and remember, it's not something personal, and ultimately, you just have to actually have, like I said, the sense of urgency of trying to come up with an answer, trying to make things happen.
Most definitely. That's cool. Any other closing thoughts, comments, any wisdom you want to impart on our listening audience?
I just, want to say that I've, just enjoyed my time, at the city of Pearland so much. It's one of those it's one of those places where when I get up in the morning, I'm excited to come to work.
Yeah.
You know, I have a wonderful team. I have a wonderful supervisor, and you know, it's a very welcoming environment. And there's always so many just cool opportunities that I either hear about or they're offered to the employees. So I've enjoyed that, and I do honestly feel like my work impacts the greater good of the community, and that's a nice thought. It's one thing to to go to work because you have to earn money, but it's another thing when you feel as though your work means more than just shifting paperwork around.
Well, and you can see your fingerprint on all of the impact on the community because you're directly in that line of making things happen and making community. One of the things that my sort of talk track to us as an organization, our organizational why is the community and the symbiotic relationship of if the community wasn't here, then we wouldn't need to be. And if we weren't here, then the community wouldn't be, right? It's, the continuity of essential city services that we provide is really important. And, being able to pay for those with the funds that have been entrusted to us is crucial.
That's where it starts.
Right. That's right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, we're thankful you're here for sure.
I appreciate it. And thank y'all so much for having me. This has just been a really, really fun time, a little break from the 500 invoices to approve. So,
well, we'll let you get back to it, but thank you for coming on the show. And I guess we'll talk to you next time. So, thanks everybody for listening. And that's it for this episode. Bye.